The Swiss stage of Worlds 2025 is over. And man, what a Swiss stage it was. We're gonna be breaking down Saturday's elimination games, but before we do, we're gonna toss it over to Sean Wetselaar, who's been on the ground over in China.
All right, so if there's one thing we've learned from the Swiss stage so far, it's that anyone at Worlds this year can lose. Anyone can win, of course, as well, but even the best teams in the world are making mistakes.
As Owner's ready to try to show up, dives in with the audacious charge, public execution from Dokla. Owner's gonna die to the turret shot. Dokla stays alive for now. Doran's gonna try to pick this one up a little bit, but Doran's gonna die as well! Big Dokes!
Other than Gen.g and maybe AL, there's pretty major questions about every team that's left in the tournament. Even KT, who 3-0'd the Swiss stage, has fans asking a lot of questions ahead of quarterfinals in Shanghai. Teams are definitely still adjusting to the patch and finding the optimal way to play at a Worlds that's fundamentally just moving a lot faster than it has in previous years. But honestly, a lot of the best teams in the world are making mistakes that are just genuinely hard to explain.
I think this Worlds is very chaotic. It feels like everyone can kind of beat anyone. There's a lot of, it feels very competitive. So I think we will just have to be on the lookout.
So I think one of the major differences this year is actually the early game. Teams like CFO, MKOI, and even 100 Thieves found ways to play the top LPL and LCK teams very evenly in the beginning. And so unlike we might have seen in previous years, we didn't necessarily get these situations where teams from weaker regions got absolutely steamrolled right out of the gate. So while I think it's a little premature to be declaring that the gap has closed or all the other regions in the world have suddenly caught up to the LCK and the LPL, I do definitely think it's true that in best of ones or even best of threes, anything can happen at Worlds. And almost everyone is feeling that pressure this year. And I think it's way too easy to forget that even the best teams in the world are comprised of human beings that can make mistakes and aren't fundamentally perfect. Although the end results at the Swiss stage are basically what we might have expected or within reason, the individual games were much closer and back and forth than they have been at previous Worlds. So even if the teams that we're seeing in Shanghai are more or less what we expected going into the Swiss stage, I do think that the way that they got there does matter. And even if Gen.g and maybe AL are kind of a clear step ahead of the competition, neither team has been infallible this year. It's a bit of a cliche, but when we get into the bracket, anything can happen. And this year, everyone can bleed.
This video is sponsored by our friends over at Opera GX, who have the browser for gaming. Okay, let's be honest, guys. What does everybody want out of their browser? No frills, a smooth experience, and no annoying ads. And that's the Opera GX difference. These guys, they just get it. This S-tier browser comes with a built-in ad blocker to make sure your experience is seamless, as well as a built-in VPN that allows you to encrypt your data and hide your IP with a single click. On top of that, when you download Opera GX, you can use the code EARNYOURLEGACY until the end of League of Legends Worlds to get a free month of their VPN Pro. So make sure you download Opera GX using the link in the description and get started.
All right, so looking at the standings, round 4 saw HLE, G2, and Gen.g advance to the knockout stage with 3-1 records, while the elimination games saw Team Secret Wales, VKS, and 100 Thieves sent packing. Round 5 games were locked in. 6 teams, but only 3 final places left in the knockout stage. And first up was CTBC Flying Oyster versus FlyQuest. Now in game 1, FlyQuest's pick comp paid off at times, allowing them to single out and punish lone members of CFO, but CFO's scaling comp didn't lose their heads and kept taking turrets to keep the gold neck and neck going into the mid game. It all came to a head at 41 minutes in the mid lane. Both teams were on soul point, but with 2 of FlyQuest's inhibitor turrets down, they may have felt the pressure to engage.
Whippo going in, there's the wall as well. Quad though keeping himself relatively safe this time as Honku goes golden. Seismic shove is going to be avoided with the flash, but Whippo picks him up, but he's not going to be able to withstand the Emperor's Divide. Into the backline goes Inspired. Busio's there, they need to kill Honku, and down he goes! Quad's getting flashed on though by drivers, looking to burn down Massey. Doggo's still alive as well, and the rest of CFO have dealt with the other onslaught on the other side of the fight. Down goes Inspired as Junja, with full health, is going to be able to make his way out.
CFO finally took Fly's Nexus at 45 minutes in what is officially the longest game we've seen at Worlds so far. Game 2 exploded after just 5 minutes with fights happening everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, for Smite Bites, Rock Q for Kiana is very good.
Dear. Here's the dive, 2v2, the flash forward from Doggo, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Massey, he flashes away. There's a stand aside, and there's also a kill in the mid lane. What the heck is going on? It's another one as Rest gets the feats of warfare, and CFO just won everywhere on the map.
And from there, CFO didn't take their foot off the pedal, with Doggo's Draven picking up 3 kills before the 10-minute mark, and by the mid-game, he was ready to cash in.
It'd have to be a steal as now Rest looking for that angle, trying to find the knockups here. As out he goes as Doggo just takes down Quad. They're all starting to explode, and now he presses W, runs forward. Massey trying to get out of there. The axe from downtown, and he gives the thumbs up as he looks to chase out Massey here. There it is. Grabs the triple.
I guess CFO weren't feeling another long one this time and smashed through Fly's base at 27 minutes to book themselves their first ever top 8 spot at Worlds and send North America's final representative home. In the LPL showdown, Game 1 saw BLG make 369's life absolute hell in the bot lane, while the rest of top esports tried to return the favor in top lane. Things looked neck and neck heading into the mid game until BLG expanded their slight gold lead with a perfectly disguised Nico engage from On to put BLG firmly in the driver's seat. And let me tell you, On wasn't done yet.
Oh, it's On actually who's got the flank. I saw the Zin on the minimap, and On's gonna find a Pop Blossom here. Top esports, they don't know what's coming. Pop Blossom onto 4! The Call of the Forge got a eulogy for TES! As a great collapse comes out from BLG, they continue to flash forward. Cream trying to survive, and he just can't do it. The TP behind. BLG don't want to leave a man standing. Knight makes them kneel. A double for him. A perfect flank.
Pretty soon, top esports found themselves unable to even touch a BLG who had Soul, Baron, and an almost 10k gold lead, and their Nexus fell at 28 minutes. Now, Game 2 saw only 3 kills apiece in the early game and almost even gold, but top esports had already set a timer by putting themselves on Soul point before 17 minutes. This forced BLG's hand 5 minutes later as they engaged to stop Soul at 22 minutes, but a resulting 4v5 looked doomed from the start, and top secured their hard-earned Dragon Soul. Soon, BLG were retreating from their own engages at Baron, and TES were running them down in their own base by 28 minutes to even up the series. It felt like the deciding Game 3 didn't really get started until we had a tier 1 turret fight that felt more like a late game Nexus defense.
Solar Flare down, lands the stun onto On, but not really the target that you want. He still has the quickness. Meanwhile, top esports continue to push in for the tier 1 on the bot side. Redemption being used. Supreme Titan does catch on to Elf, but he cleanses and Featherstorms away. The charm from On under the tower means absolute destruction for BLG. They find 2. They land a taunt on 369 as well. The tower still stands, but 369 tanks it up.
369's Mord looked unstoppable at the 20-minute Otacon fight, which may have been what baited Cream into a bizarre decision to start frontlining, which Bin was happy to punish. It felt like the game could go either way, and it almost did in an extremely close fight at 26 minutes.
Supreme decided Tanner's gonna get him stunned. The Cyclone from Base 1, Jackie Lurt's already killed off On, and top esports just immediately turn it around. Base 1 trying to swing around with a Cyclone, but it's a Tempest for BLG. Now 2 for 2, Elk on the back foot. Knight gets caught in the Justice Punch. Elk flashes, finds the root, finds the Featherstorm. Jackie answers. Jackie flashes in. Jackie Love for top esports.
Now, BLG managed to hold the line right outside their base at 31 minutes thanks to some heroics from Bin's Jax, but when it all came down to the dragon fight a few minutes later, Cream's late-game smolder proved impossible to contain, and the LPL's 3rd seed sent the 1st seed home soon after. Euphoria was at an all-time high in Game 1 of the Koi vs T1 series as the defending world champions gave up first blood to the Europeans early on. Playing like the name tags were off, Koi built up a 2k gold lead by 16 minutes thanks to some fearless picks on T1, but T1's team fighting prowess was on full display, allowing them to wrestle back control of the mid game. Oh yeah, and Faker was on a Azir.
And it just doesn't work. Doran looks like he's about to fall. Nice sidestep on Guma's Q, but Doran just barely able to walk away. It's the Canadian mid laner trying his best, but it's Faker who's better and snipes him out. I don't even know if that was necessary.
T1 carried their momentum into what ended up being a pretty routine victory for them, as Koi were left wondering what more they could have done with that early game lead. Supa's Vayne mowed down Gumayushi in the top lane 4 minutes into game 2, burning right through his barrier in the process. But hopes of him taking over the game were snuffed out 4 minutes later when he took on Guma and Keria in a bizarre 1v2. Now, it's likely he thought his collapsing teammates were a lot closer than they actually were, but whatever the reason, T1 were more than happy to punish. Around 20 minutes, we saw a series of extended team fights that really could have gone either way. Jojopyun's Cassiopeia was starting to look really scary, but T1 kept finding ways to keep them at bay.
Trying to distract the members of MKOI. Flash forward from Jojo, completely whiffs. Owner immediately turns right back. Alvaro tries to find the disengage. Lock up on Guma, does not come through. Mirwin cannot find the angle. Supa still standing for now. Knock back into the wall is good, but Owner wants to take down the bait. He doesn't quite have the damage. Supa still standing, but the rest of MKOI are starting to fall. He splits back into Mirwin. Tumble back into the back line. Knock up from Doran. One more ferocious bite, but the Gadam says not today. Supa standing, but here comes Faker! Faker finishes off Supa and holds the game for T1 in his hands.
At 41 minutes, T1 forced MKOI to choose between Soul and their Nexus, and MKOI ultimately failed to cover both as T1 took the game and the series. Now, some have said that the defending world champions have had sort of an easy route so far since they've only had to play Western teams to not get eliminated, but with all the Western teams who aren't G2 gone, the real challenge begins. They'll face AL on Friday. Gen.g knocked out Hanwha Life Esports earlier today. Tomorrow, we'll see KT Rolster versus CFO, and G2 will take on Top Esports on Thursday. Now look, Swiss stage was definitely chaotic at times, but despite all of the twists and turns, the top 8 we ended up with is sort of the top 8 you'd expect going into the bracket stage, minus of course a notably absent BLG and a diminished G2. But from this point on, there will be no hiding from anyone. At the end of this week, we will have our final 4 rosters. And like Sean said earlier, at that point, anything can happen.
Thanks for watching. If you want more content like this, hit the sub button and ring the notification bell. For unique bite-sized videos you won't find anywhere else, hit us up on our X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.